How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. So I kind of wanted to first start off on, you giving an introduction of like who you are in case just for our readers and why you're cool.
Why I'm cool? I don't know if I'm cool.
Because you are a cool guy.
I'm a serial entrepreneur. I like to build brands. So I've built some brands in the past, like Engadget or Autoblog or Mahalo or This Week in Startups. And the latest one will be Inside.com, which will launch in this fall of 2013. And I also angel invest in companies. And I host a podcast called This Week in Startups where I interview people like you're interviewing me now.
Nice. Awesome. So the first question I want to ask you is you founded Weblogs, which was funded by Mark Cuban and subsequently sold for a reported $25 million to AOL. And for me, being in online media myself, I know a few friends and angel investors, and they tell me the talk of the town is that online media companies and blogs are bad investments due to scaling issues and stuff like that. Do you agree with that statement? Or
it's very hard to scale a blog network today. When we started, there was only one other blog network. It was Gawker, and they had two blogs. Blogging in 2003, 2004, 2005 was largely an individual thing. So it was LiveJournal or Movable Type, and it was an individual would just blog. And blogs didn't even have advertising on them. The idea of putting an ad on a blog was considered, antithetical to the movement. It was a personal publishing movement. But then people realized, well, personal publishing could mean something commercial as well. And so our big innovation was to put 10 bloggers together on one blog, like Autoblog or Joystick or Engadget, and then have them blog 2-3 times a day each. In the past, people would blog 2 or 3 times a week. And that was really insightful. Like, oh my God, this person who, I didn't know anything about is writing 2,000 words a week about their life. And that was fantastic. But having 10 people or 5 people write about television at TV Squad or movies at Cinematical, and these were voices that before that didn't really have any space in the media. But now they could read what was in the New York Times that day and write their view of it unfiltered. And that was pretty revolutionary at the time.
What do you think it would take for a blog or media company to succeed in this day and age, you would think?
Well, it really depends on the resources you have versus the competitive landscape and the passion of the team. So there's a limited amount of highly talented people in the world. They tend to be more sought after. And then when people become established, it's very hard to displace a brand. So right now, if you have Deadline Hollywood, if you wanted to compete with Deadline Hollywood, you would have to have somebody as good as, Nikki Finke and the rest of the people on that team. So you have to either steal them, make them, or find them, right? And that's a lot of work and could be a lot of effort. Now, before that, there really wasn't anybody except for Hollywood Reporter and Variety. So to compete with them, you needed to do something different. And what they did was they found new voices, they grew them over time, and they invested in quality and having scoops. And now Deadline gets read more than Variety and Hollywood Reporter in a lot of cases. So that's the kind of, wherewithal it takes. It doesn't mean you can't displace the person there, but you have to either have some unique technological innovation or strategy that beats them, or you need to have resources. And resources typically means money or distribution or, a combination of those things.
If somebody were to approach you with a business idea, right, would their passion and, team override what the idea is? Do you see what I'm saying?
No. I mean, if as an angel investor, you're going to have a certain number of bets you can place. In my case, it might be 5 a year, 10 a year. I'm going to place them very strategically. I want to see all the things that I need flicked on. So, that means I want to be in love with the founder and think they've got great passion. I want to be in love with the idea. I want to be in love with the execution. I want to be in love with the market. I want to be in love with the team. I want to be in love with the strategy.
Well, what are the projects right now that you have invested in that you're most passionate about? I'm sure it's all of them, but what
I mean, the one that is definitively the most successful right now is Uber, which is a car service company that was one of the first angel investors in, and it's done extraordinary, and I'm very privileged to be invested in it. You take out your phone, you click that you want a car comes to you, you get in, you get out, and it seems like a very simple idea, but when I saw it, Travis Kalanick had just executed, and his team, and Garrett Camp, his co-founder, just had executed so brilliantly and flawlessly that they took away 4 or 5 of the most painful things about getting a cab. Like having to pick up the phone and talk to a dispatcher who was yelling and screaming into a microphone while she or he was talking to you on the phone. Like knowing when the cab was going to arrive because you could see it on a map. Paying the cab driver and waiting 15 minutes for your credit card to clear. having a good cab driver, because you can rate the cab drivers, therefore the cab drivers are not going to behave badly because they know that they're being rated. Bad behavior on the part of customers was eliminated because the cab drivers rate the customers. Just so many things were made better about the process. When that's that relentless focus on making the product great, that it started to get traction, and once it had traction and a great product, the sky's the limit.
You've been the talk of the town lately in the YouTube space. From you wrote a blog post about why you didn't want I think their second year of funding. And you also wrote a essentially YouTube Bill of Rights. And I know you've kind of outlined this in those blog posts already, but what would you say is the basic groundwork that all aspiring YouTube stars need to establish in order to see some sort of success, like long term?
Yeah, so there's two different things. There's YouTube for individual content creators and as a marketing platform, and then there's YouTube as a business worth investing in. Let's take the first. If you're an artist and you want to get your work out there, there is no better vehicle than YouTube today. Twitter and Facebook, other social platforms, Pinterest are perhaps better for other verticals, actually. So there might be one for music that's better than music. Actually, YouTube probably is the best. But for fashion, obviously, Pinterest would be better. Twitter, maybe comedians are better. Anyway, YouTube is essential and awesome for those people. It's free. There's 1 billion people there. And if you get even just a couple of hundred people to check out your work and love it, it could turn into thousands, tens of thousands, and in fact millions. But then when you start looking at YouTube as a business, and I'm trying to build a standalone business on YouTube, there are certain things that make it really untenable to production companies and make it really impossible for it to be anything more than a third of the mix, anything more than a marketing tool with a little bit of revenue. And that is the fact that YouTube, first, there's 3 or 4 factors. One, YouTube takes a large percentage of the revenue. I can't say what our deal was, but I've had 24 people tell me, and you've had them tell you as well, I'm sure, that YouTube takes 45% of the revenue. Now, that's a large percentage of the revenue. 30% would be a very large percentage. 45 is an obscene percentage. 30% is large in the iTunes space, and people were pretty angry about that, but they've learned to live with it. 45% is just, it makes it untenable, because if you were to sell an ad and you had a sales team, the cost of the sales team selling the ad might be 20 or 30%. That comes off the top number. So let's just say it's 15%. Now YouTube takes 45%, 15% has gone to the sales team on the total large number, and now you're down to only 40% of the dollar. 40 cents is left. Of that 40 cents, if you made a deal with your host or your talent for half the revenue, they get 20 cents on the dollar. The production company gets 20 cents on the dollar. The salespeople get 15 cents. And YouTube gets 45%. That's if there's no production cost. But we all know there's production cost. So let's say your production cost is 50 cents on the dollar. If your production cost is 50 cents of the dollar, and you sell $100,000, YouTube takes $45,000. Your sales team takes $5 or 10, to say $10,000. We'll make it even just 10%. The sales cost winds up being 10%, $10,000. Now you've got $45,000 left. Well, if your production cost was $50,000, now you're negative $5,000. You've lost money, and that's the issue. If you sell the ads on YouTube, YouTube should only take 10%. So if I came to YouTube with a $100,000 ad buy from my advertiser that I had a relationship with, and they took 10,000 of the 100,000, I'd have 90,000 left. If the production cost was 50,000, the sales cost was 10,000, I'd still have 30,000 left to split with the talent, but that would still only be 15,000 each. It would still be a hard business, right?
Funny thing is, I talked about it in a blog post too. That you don't essentially own that audience either, because YouTube owns that audience. So even though you think it's your subscribers, it's not. It's not.
You have no way to contact those subscribers unless YouTube lets you, and you can't. So that's another astute point. I think when you click that subscribe button, it should have a checkbox that says, give my email to iJustine. Because when somebody clicks subscribe on iJustine, is their intent to give their contact information to YouTube or to iJustine? I believe it's the latter. That they really want to create a relationship with iJustine, so why not just have a checkbox there that they could either check or uncheck that allows them to join her list? Well, the reason is because then she become very powerful and not need YouTube. So they take 45, they give no marketing support, they own the subscribers. And then when it comes to advertising, they don't have their own ad sales team. And so if you want to connect with the advertisers who they're selling your product to, so they're selling iJustine to somebody, you don't know who they're selling it to. They won't give you a list of the advertisers who are advertising as your channel, and they won't give you the contact information, and you can't go on a sales call with a YouTube salesperson. Again, this issue of control. So that's what I said in the Bill of Rights. If somebody spends more than $5,000 a month on my channel, I should get the insertion order. I should get the contact info for that advertiser so that I can develop a relationship with them as well, because you're selling my product. And so those combination of things, I think, makes it not a good investment for anything other than marketing, or if you're an individual who wants to grow their brand. So does that mean you should not do YouTube? No, I never said that. I said it's not a good business investment. And what I'm hoping is, and I've been, trying to create a dialogue, and that was the point of my post, is that everybody will check in and say, hey, do we agree with what Jason said or not? And right now, YouTube has told me they're thankful for my feedback, but I haven't gotten any changes. And so what I'm hoping is that people who listen to your podcasts or read, your blogs or other people's, they actually say to YouTube, like, hey, we agree with Jason on these 2 points, or 4, or these 3 points, or all 5 points. And that a group of people can convince YouTube that it's worth making YouTube itself a sustainable business proposition.
Well, okay, let's talk about Inside.com.
Yeah.
So when I was, doing some research on you, I couldn't find anything on what Inside.com is.
Yeah.
Can you reveal anything at this time at all, or
Yeah. I can reveal that it's going to be out in October of 2013.
Okay.
You can sign up at Inside.com. You can follow the Twitter handle Inside, and we're going to be looking for beta users this summer. And it will be on your mobile device, but that's all I can say.
So almost every successful entrepreneur that you see today has had some major failure in their life that changed everything. Could you share your most memorable failure and how you kind of picked yourself back up from it?
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 times I've had definitive sort of failures. One was with Silicon Valley Reporter, which was my magazine during Web 1.0. The internet industry and the stock market collapsed, and then 9/11 happened. And so I had 70, 80 employees at that time and had to get down to a dozen. And so that was very hard. It was outside factors. And that's typically what happens with a startup. It's not, at least my startups, a lot of times when there's a failure, it's because there's some outside factor that hit us from the side that we didn't anticipate, like 9/11 and the dot-com bust. We were super dependent at that time on internet companies because the magazine was all filled with internet advertisers. So when the internet industry crashed and the stock market went from 5,000 to 1,200, the NASDAQ, all the internet companies went away, their marketing budgets went away, and there was no advertisers. No advertisers, no way to pay the employees, and the business went down to 12 people, and I wound up selling it to Dow Jones. So it was an okay outcome, but not a great one. And then with Mahalo.com, which was the human-powered search engine I did, it was largely based on content and search. The content doing much better than the search, and it was the 140th largest site in the United States with 15 million uniques a month. And then Google decided to do the Panda update, where they just cut every large site, whether it was Hub Pages or Demand Media or us, eHow, a bunch of places. They just decided nobody would have too much traffic. So again, an outside factor came in and absolutely crushed our traffic. And now you look, Google is putting 70% of a Google search result page is not organic search. It's them giving the answer and them giving content. So Google's a content company now. So it's no wonder that they didn't want to have other big content companies in the world and did the Panda update. Most people believe, or theorize, they did the Panda update at the same time they were giving answers and moving the search results down the page so that nobody like Demand Media or WikiHow or any of these sites could get too big and start drawing direct audience. So that's a conspiracy theory, but I think it's a pretty logical one.
Do you have any words of wisdom that you live by that you can share to our readers?
Yeah, starting is easy, finishing is hard.
Love it. Great. Well, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Great.